Dinesh, your personal story is told from time to time, but never in great detail. Would you mind taking a minute to share your personal story, your immigration story, really, as to how you came to America with some Future Days audience?
I was born in the outskirts of Mumbai, India. My dad was a chemical engineer, my mom, a housewife. And at the age of 17, a man came to my school from the Rotary Club of Mumbai, and suggested that we students consider applying for an exchange program scholarship to the United States. And something convinced me to do that. There was a selection process. In any event, I came to the country here at the age of 17 as a high school exchange student. I lived in Arizona for a year, went to public school in a small town called Patagonia. I lived with 4 families over the course of the year, kind of a cross-section, if you will, of American life. And then my high school counselor came to me one fine day and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of applying to college?" And I said, "Well, my parents' ambition was to send me for graduate school to London, kind of the old Indian thing to do in perhaps the days of colonialism." And he goes, we have a very small school here and I don't have a whole lot to do. So I'm going to sort of make you my project for the year. And so
Wow.
This man, Mr. Hackett, shepherded me through the college application process. Ended up going to Dartmouth. And this was the very early years of Reagan, 1980 to 83. And while I was there, a liberal arts student studying economics, I also kind of caught the Reagan bug and started getting interested in Reaganism, this remarkable phenomenon. And it really changed my career plans and ultimately changed my life and steered me in a political direction that I might not otherwise have gone into.
Dinesh, I'm curious, just to go back to your living experience in Arizona. What was that like? What kind of right now immigration is just such a hot topic. Obviously, like the country is like ripped apart because of it. And I'm curious, like if you could go back to the emotion, the fear, the uncertainty, and maybe there were some great things too. The hope. Maybe you were just 17, you didn't understand why you were in that situation, or the dream. Like, what was it like from an emotional perspective, living with these other people and all?
It was strange on many levels. I was coming from a big city, Bombay, one of the biggest cities in the world. I was in a town of 1,000 people, and my high school senior class had 32. So
Wow.
it was a transformation in that sense. I lived with a pastor, then I lived with the postmaster of the town, then a rancher, and finally a couple, both of whom were school teachers. So a very interesting mix of people. I think in retrospect, very good for me. I've been very much assimilated over the years, and it happened very quickly. And I credit a lot of it to having lived with American families and also lived in an environment somewhat separated from a larger Indian community. For example, if I'd been sent to, let's just say, Jackson Heights, New York, it's like Little India, Indian
I do know.
restaurants, Indian
Yep.
families. I probably would still have an Indian accent right now if that
Mm.
had been the case. Remember, I didn't come as an immigrant per se. In theory, I'd come for 1 year as an exchange student. In fact, my
Right.
family never came with me. And to this day, no family members have followed in my path. They're still back in India. So my
Wow.
experience is unusual. Most Indians who are here have come as families. The parents have relocated, brought the kids, and so on. But in my case, I came for a year. I then extended it for 4 years to get under a student visa. And only after I graduated from Dartmouth, I was like, I'm very interested in this country and what it represents. I want to be part of its politics. So I then applied for a green card, which took me some years to get. And then I was naturalized. So think about it. I came in 1978. In 1991, I took the fabled oath of citizenship and became a US citizen.
Taking that oath, was that important to you? And do you think it's an important part of being an American?
It's important in a ritualistic sense. It cements something that has to happen above and beyond the oath. In other words, interestingly, the oath is like any important ritual and enactment. The oath by itself doesn't do anything. Ideally, you have made a sort of emotional and maybe even spiritual transformation into, quote, becoming an American. And the oath is a kind of affirmation of that. A little bit like, when you get married and say, I do. Hopefully you already love the person, you're committed to a life with them. And the I do is simply the sort of final affirmation of a commitment that's already made.